Victor Scotti Jr. is a corporate maverick turned texture-centric stylist. He is currently finishing his cosmetology school at the Aveda Institute in Arlington, where he's focusing his career around ensuring everyone has the space to feel beautiful. Today, we're going to hear what he's doing, how he's got there, and get into the mind and hearts of our future rising stylist. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. My name is Robert Hughes, and I am your host. And today, I am with Victor Scotti Jr. How you doing today, Victor?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And so a little background for anybody listening or watching, and I met Victor at the Aveda Institute Arlington when I showed up for for just a guest speaker day. And we connected, and I asked him if he would be interested in coming on the show. And you said, yeah, let's do it. So I thought I'd be a good place to start with, one part of your story inside of the introduction was the corporate maverick turned texture-centric stylist.
Yes.
That's the part that I'm so curious about. You had a history before getting into hair. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what were you doing before and what caused you to, make the shift?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a pleasure to be here and really excited for our conversation today. It's quite a pivot. So I'll just kind of back up by saying I was born and raised in Chicago. I come from a family of educators. For those that don't know, Chicago is very racially segregated, actually one of the most segregated cities in America. I mention that because between growing up in Chicago and also education, that's what really got me thinking about equity and access. And so have moved from totally different spaces and lived in a lot of different places, but that mission for me has always remained the same, for folks to be able to feel their best and be able to do their best work. So I went to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, majored in sociology and urban education. So I've always wanted to work with people and really thinking through people and their backgrounds and circumstances and how that really shapes, who they are and how they come to be who they are. And so that led me to corporate America. So I worked at Google in two different stints and also Netflix. And the myriad of roles that I've had at both places, they all were at the intersection of human resources, student development programming, and also diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I do consider myself a diversity, equity, and inclusion practitioner. I spent 10 years in that space. I had amazing experiences. Those are great companies that offer a ton. But I found that I wasn't really able to fully express my creativity. I did great work. I loved what I did, but I knew that there was more to do. And I found that in those spaces, just the way that American businesses work, there's a lot of conformity, there's a lot of, cookie cutter solutioning. And so I knew that it was time to do something different and really exercise my talent in different ways. As I was thinking through that, the tech layoffs hit. So in January of 2023, I remember waking up to an email that said I was laid off from my current company. And so honestly, as soon as it happened, I didn't know what I would do next, but I knew that it was a blessing. And it sounds strange to even recall, but at that time, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. Thank God for this severance. Let me tell my husband, but this is a blessing. I remember thinking about things in that order. As I was literally thinking through what I was going to do, but also taking time for rest and self-care and all those things, my husband and I literally started doing hair on mannequins. I cannot remember where that idea came from, but it was something that we could do together. It was something that was fun. We would watch Netflix and just do all these things. And after a while, it was really him. Shout out to Gary. And he said, you're really good at this. Like, have you considered, something that is a bit more creative to do professionally? And I'm like, I hadn't considered it. Like, it sounded so far from, where I'd been. But he has a best friend who's a stylist and who's also an Aveda alum. So I chatted with her. I visited, different hair schools in the area, and then decided to take that leap. So I've been at Aveda in Arlington for about 7 months now. So before we were recording, I was saying I think we met when I was in the first phase of the program, and now I'm starting phase 4 tomorrow. So time moves, so fast. But delving into this industry has just been a blast. I've gotten a chance to connect more deeply with friends and family, through caring for their hair, really sharing energy and space with new guests, that I meet, and also learning from educators and influencers. I think that is such a dynamic industry. You are your own business. You're an entrepreneur. You can be an educator. You can be an influencer, right? We're all artists. And so all these things that I've thought about in various capacities. And it was really hard for me, I think, as a young person, but even as I was working in corporate, to really kind of nail down, like, here's exactly what I want to do. I want to do a number of things. And so I feel really blessed to have found the beauty industry, because it's not only something that I have such a deep personal connection to as I think about how I've evolved in terms of beauty and self-care and wellness in my own expression, but also being able to really help other folks, tell their stories, through their hair and through wellness. And I think that the sky is truly the limit. And I'm really excited to get this start and to be here.
Nice, nice. So tell me, tell us, what is, when you, like, the term maverick, what is
Mm-hmm.
the term? I just want to dig into this to, like, kind of increase the context a little bit. What is, like, the term maverick mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. To me, a maverick is a leader, is a change agent, is someone that thinks about things differently than maybe we thought about them before, who's not afraid to to stand up and say, here's what I think. Here's what might be a good opportunity for us. And that's always, I always felt compelled and I guess like called during my time, in that space, to speak up, and to be exactly who I am. That wasn't without challenges, but I think that I really do believe that through those 10 years, like, I think I was able to do phenomenal work and connected with multiple companies in different ways. But I think the point of that time was to really help me find my own voice, to find it, to refine it, and to be able to, enter into the space that I'm in now, not only just cosmetology school or just the industry, but, who I am, within myself. And so that's what I think of when I think of the term maverick. And I think that especially someone who identifies as Black, as genderqueer, I think it's important to voice that, and for everyone's perspective to to be heard and to be recognized, but especially those that are underrepresented and or marginalized. So I also feel that that is a responsibility that I have as well. And so when I also think of what it means to be a maverick, I think it means really taking up that responsibility and acting on it in whatever way possible.
Nice. So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that you want to bring that into that's part of your brand.
Mm-hmm.
And as you kind of, as you finish, as you go through this, like, you have, you just told me before, we started that you have fit to have one more are they levels at Aveda? What are they?
It's 5 different phases. And so,
Phases.
yeah, each phase is 10 weeks. So I'm entering into the fourth one, and then I have another one left. So about 20 weeks total.
So when you at this point, I know that when we introduced you, you said texture centric stylist.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you like? How did that happen? The obvious, and it might be an obvious answer because of everything you just explained.
Mm-hmm.
However, I still want to give you the chance to, if there's more to the story there, and specifically because I would imagine that you go in and you start learning, and how has your education impacted this this desire to make change and bring inclusivity and represent people who don't have that representation. How has school impacted like you so far?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because it's one that I think a lot about. I think that I'm 33, and so I can't speak for all cosmetology schools, but I know that in my cohort, for example, I'm definitely the oldest person, but I think within the school, I'm like one of the oldest folks who are students. And I only mention age not as a proxy for experience necessarily or ways of thinking, but literally for me, because I've had varying experiences. And so, what I quickly recognized, and I also want to say that all views are my own, in general, and I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone or any institution but myself. I think that we need to talk more about inclusivity and not only talk about it, but also be about it and teach it. I think the beauty industry and cosmetology school in general is one of those spaces where we literally can action equity. That's what I love actually about this phase of my journey in my life. I felt like in corporate America, we talked about it a lot. I think we held ourselves to goals that I think that as an industry, and I was in the tech industry, we won't meet for a long time. But I actually feel like I can action equity and inclusivity in my interactions with my guests and what that experience looks like. Am I respecting their pronouns? Am I even asking, right? Are they neurodiverse in different ways? And am I being respectful of that? So in terms of texture, number one, I always thought, I'm like, it would be a shame to graduate cosmetology school and not be able to do, folks' hair that looks like me. Because I should start by saying, other than those mannequins that my husband and I played with, I had not done hair before. So I know a lot of people come to cosmetology school with varying journeys. I've heard a lot of, I've been doing hair my whole life. I hadn't. And so for me, there's also a personal element in there as well. I'm like, I want to be able to care for my own hair, but folks who look like me as well. I think that the curriculum is very focused on straight hair. I think which is a proxy for whiteness, if I'm being honest. And so there is such a vast there's such a vast world, right? Like beyond whiteness and beyond straight hair. And I think that it is the responsibility of our industry to best prepare stylists to be able to service everyone, right? So we can't talk about texture but not teach what that looks like. And I think in a lot of ways, not teaching it or not being on state board exams reifies the fact that texture is challenging, or this sense of overwhelm, or I just don't know what to do. Hair is hair, right? And so and hair requires different things. All straight hair isn't the same. And so for me, I think that it is important to again, for folks who have varying experiences, I think in beauty spaces, not only just Black folks, but for me, as a Black, gender queer person. So, going to a salon, right, for example, for these fashion twists I have, but then also a barbershop for, my sides and my back and my beard. Right. So number one, it's really hard to find a stylist who can do all of that at one time. So I want to be that person for other folks like me, but then also be able to provide an inclusive experience, at the same time, because Black folks or, folks who might identify with textured hair are not a monolith either. So for me, it's in recognition, like me being a texture centric stylist is really in recognition of, the fact that, who we are naturally is beautiful, is deserving of care, is deserving of someone who knows about the health of our hair, but also all hair, and at the same time can provide an experience that, sets the conditions for folks to feel as beautiful and as well as they're able to be.
Nice, nice. I love this. You have definitely spent quite a bit of time, thinking about it. It sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
so I appreciate that in-depth answer. So, would you say that people in school are like your cohorts or with your fellow students and rising stylists? Do you all talk about that a lot?
Absolutely.
Is that a,
Yeah, we absolutely talk about it a lot. I think that, being on the clinic floor, I think that we talk about it a lot because we're experiencing it. So there are folks in my class who focus on locks. There are folks who, love texture all around and are open to learning new things. I'm one of those people. There are a lot of people in my specific cohort who also want to focus, specifically on texture after, graduation in their salons or in their suites or whatever it is that they pursue. So, yeah, so we talk about it in my cohort and, at my school at Aveda, a great deal, not only just amongst the students, but also amongst the educators as well. And I think over time that has influenced us having a textured mannequin in our kit. Aveda does have a number of fantastic resources from the global texture team. So I think having that education available within the curriculum is helpful. And educators who I would say their specialty is texture, and those who know how to do, all hair. And so I think, being in that environment and then, us being able to have those conversations as students and educators does help, I think, to not only push our learning and push our thinking, but I think ultimately once we enter into, the industry at large, push the industry as well.
so sounds to me like you might want to consider checking out like state board meetings and
Mm,
sitting in on those and figuring out like because I mean I don't know, I mean it just what I hear is that there's action in your life, in your future, that
hmm
to impact the industry. That's what I'm
hmm
hearing. And so that's something that I got to sit in on my first state board, and they talk about a lot of stuff. You get to hear what other people are doing. You
Yeah.
get to have your voice heard. So there's that, and then there's also just education in general. I also would predict that there's education in your life as a
Mhm.
teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, which so so this is exciting. This must be exciting. Have you looked at like looking at salons? Are you thinking about going out on your own as like a suite owner, a suite renter or something? Like what is your thought? What are your thoughts for like immediate, like coming out of school immediately?
Yeah, this is something that I've been thinking a lot about. And I think that I've gone through different iterations of what that answer is. So coming into cosmetology school, I was open to a salon, but leaning towards a suite, um, because I love people, but I think sometimes I tell myself that like I'm an introvert and need space, which is true. But I truly love people, and I actually think that like being on the clinic floor and being in cosmetology school has helped solidify that for me, because I think that because I get to actually do my art in community, there's something really special about that. So part of it is that I have changed, I think, since entering this journey. But yeah, I was thinking a lot about, I'm like, it'd be great to have my own space, to do my own thing, to attract my own clientele. That doesn't scare me, the prospect of building my own clientele. It's actually a great challenge for me. And I think about challenges, in multiple ways. And so that's where I was entering into school. As I began like talking to different salons, different salon owners, I've met some really dope people who are pushing the industry in so many ways. From everything from, genderless offerings, which I'm a huge, huge, huge advocate for, salons who are salaried, who are providing benefits, who, truly outline like what that path looks like in terms of growth, those that offer apprenticeships and education. So I think a couple of things were happening. I think one of the things is I'm like, oh, some of y'all are speaking a language that is ingrained in me, being a corporate person. And I don't think there's anything wrong, with that in general. So that was cool. But then I also, didn't know the ways in which the industry was growing. Just growing up and being proximate to stylists just through like my mom and my sister and kind of like stories, and particularly the Black community. I knew it was something that was very creative, that you could be, really independent. But even folks who are at a salon, it seemed very much like you are your brand, which I think can be true at the same time. But I was pleasantly surprised to understand, the different things that people are doing at their salons to not only make the environment more inclusive, but for it to actually be a team atmosphere and really think about like the success and the holistic health of the salon itself as opposed to those individuals. So I think through talking to some folks, in the DMV area, and also really taking some time to really sit and think about like what would I need to be successful. I actually would love to go into a salon right after school now. I think that I still want to be a salon owner one day. I want to be a platform artist. I want to be a key artist in TV and film. I didn't even know you could sit in on state board, but I want to do that from a policy perspective. I want to get in on this conversation about texture and all of that. So I still want to do a number of different things, and I will always be that person. But I think it could be really cool to be in a salon and learn and grow, not only in my art, but also in terms of what it looks like to run a salon, what it looks like to hire, retain, and incentivize a staff, right? Especially a group of artists. So that's where I'm leaning immediately following school.
Nice, nice. And have you reached out to any salons and gone into like shadow or explore what that would look like or anything?
I have. So I'm somebody who's not shy to reach out. So as soon as I started at Aveda, I was reaching out to folks and was like shadowing when I was still in like phase one. So I have been in a number of different salons in the area. It's been a really cool experience to understand just the differences. Some are super chill, some have a lot going on, right? And offer multiple services, not only in hair, but also skincare and, all types of things. Some are, right in the mix of things in DC, others are kind of remote. So yes, I've not only reached out, but gotten a chance to really shadow, which was really invaluable before I hit the clinic floor. So for any other rising stylists watching this, who aren't on the floor yet, and maybe, like me, I definitely didn't have clients because I hadn't touched a real head yet. So I know some people are already doing their own thing, and I didn't grow up doing hair. That was a really cool experience because I got to shadow and not only see what the vibe was like and all of that, but they even let me like shampoo, and really kind of understand what was going on, which was just an awesome experience. And so I'm definitely still keeping in touch with those salons, and really at the top of the year, looking forward to, kind of activating and saying, okay, like, what is it that we might be able to do, come April and post licensure.
Nice. Awesome. Well, this is great chance. I feel like we've done a pretty decent job at like getting your story and figuring out who, like, if I was someone out there that was scouting for, a stylist or an apprentice, then I would feel like I would have gotten enough to know if first all is would you even like consider my salon a good fit or not. I feel like
Mhm.
I feel like you've given us like at least that level of information. And I like that you included like your experience and your recommendation to go out and check out like future potential salons. I'm a real big fan of going in and shadowing.
Yes.
um so I think I really want to get into hearing how you and your fellow students talk about the industry when they talk about salons, and I want to get into some like nitty gritty details on that, because that is also like, in addition to getting to know Rising Stylist and hearing what the future is thinking about bringing into the industry, it's also the other thing is also like salon owners who have a business. They have found that it's been a challenging communicating and really figuring out how to adjust or adapt
Mm,
to rising stylist expectations, and what can they do to better communicate or better connect with, and even better like run their business by
yeah.
ensuring that they can hire and retain rising stylists. But I do think that I would like to save that for the next time we get a chance to talk. I want to thank you for sharing your story, and I'm really excited to watch you on your journey. And I definitely plan on staying in touch with you for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, you've given one piece of advice. If you would like, or you could think of anything you'd like to say to someone that's coming behind you as a rising stylist, or a salon owner who's hearing this and being like, God, I'd love to have you come into the shop. Is there any last things that you'd like to say by signing off?
Yeah, for sure. I would say for other rising stylists, just reach out. Like reach out to salon owners that you're interested in. Reach out to folks that work there on Instagram. I'm also one that takes a ton of like classes through like BTC University, and a lot of companies like L'Oreal and folks like that have free classes. Take advantage of those opportunities. And if someone is doing something that is interesting to you, reach out. The worst that they can do is not respond. But so many folks have responded to me, and I've made amazing connections that are invaluable just as I'm moving forward, and have really helped me kind of understand what it is that I want to do. So I would say that to rising stylists. I would say for salon owners, but also just, hair designers with experience, I also think that it's important, like to connect with your local beauty schools. I think that I know we'll get into, kind of the industry and all of that, but I think that there is a big difference and perhaps a disconnect between cosmetology school, and what it looks like to actually be a stylist in a salon. And I actually think that we can bridge that gap a bit more, but I think it's going to take both parties, not only students, but also owners and experienced artists, to kind of come together and figure out what that looks like, and figure out what we can infuse in cosmetology schools, but also what we can learn from schools that are happening in salons so that, we can bridge that chasm, that gap a bit more. So I would tell y'all to, reach back out, to the schools that you went to or those in the area and see how you can be of assistance.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. See you next time.
All right. See ya.